Hello, I'm Sina Pabico and I will be discussing the traditional versus universal grammar for my English 125 structures class. So, before everything else, let's play a game. Let's play a game. So, I will be showing you some of the traditions around the world and it's up to you to determine either if it's true or if it's false. Shall we? Okay. Number 1. Is it true that in Denmark it's normal for people to leave a pile of broken plates to their loved ones? The correct answer is it's true. For the Danes, it's considered a good luck for them to break plates and collect broken dishes until it's New Year, and then when it's time for New Year, they'll throw their broken dishes to their friends' houses. Or if you want a less volatile version, you can just leave broken dishes at the doorsteps of your loved ones, and it's considered you wishing them good luck for the coming New Year. Next is, in Russia, there is a holiday specifically for a time off for couples to make babies. Is this true or false? So the correct answer is it's true. It's on September 12, and parents get a prize from the government for every babies that are born 9 months after. This is because that's in Russia. There's a very large difference between male and female ratio, and the males have a longer life expectancy, so it's for them to repopulate. So next is, in South Korea, you are not allowed to use blue ink. Is this true or false? The correct answer is you're not allowed to use red ink in South Korea. This is because historically in South Korea, red ink is only used for writing the names of the dead into the family register. When one person writes your name in red ink, it usually denotes that they mean you harm or ill will. So in general, they don't use red ink because it's considered rude. Okay. So now we'll go on to the actual discussion of the traditional grammar versus the universal grammar theory. In traditional grammar, the syntax of a language is described in terms of taxonomy. This is because the general assumption in traditional grammar is that phrases and sentences have constituents or syntactic units. For example, Sina ate. That sentence, it has two syntactic units, which is Sina, the subject, and ate, the predicate. This is what the traditional grammar adheres to. So in traditional grammar, each unit have a grammatical category, and each grammatical category has a specific grammatical function. In traditional grammar, what we call the grammatical categories when we were in high school and in elementary, those are what we call the parts of speech. Each part of speech has a semantic, morphological, and syntactic property. When we say semantic property, the meaning of said part of speech, while in morphological, the forms that these grammatical categories have, and in syntactic, the word order rules applied to them when they are being used in a sentence. There are two main categories in traditional grammar. The first one is the lexical categories. Lexical categories, these are words that are usually called content words, or words which have substantive lexical content. Substantive, they have substance, and they are lexicon or words. So the first one is that we are most familiar with are the nouns. They have the semantic property of denoting entities, and their morphological property is that they are either singular or either they are in plural form. In the previous sentence we use Sina ate. Sina is an example of a noun. Next are the verbs. They have the semantic property of denoting actions or events. And they have the morphological property, for regular verbs at least, of having a present and past tense, a passive and a past participle, and a progressive participles. For example, in the sentence that we used a while ago, Sina ate. Sina is a noun, while ate is a verb. Okay. Next are the adjectives. These have the semantic property of denoting states or attributes. They also have the morphological property of comparative and superlative forms. So an example is Sina ate a dried mango. Dried in this case is adjective that describes the state of the mango. Next are the adverbs. They have the semantic property of denoting the manner on which an action is performed. Before adjectives, these denote states or attributes of a noun. On the other hand, adverbs denotes the manner of a verb. The morphological property is that regular adverbs are usually made up of adjective and adding the suffix ly to it. So fastly, quickly, beautifully. Next are the preposition. The preposition have the semantic property of denoting the location. It marks the location. They have the morphological property of being invariable or uninflected, meaning they don't have a past tense. They just are. Just that. Under, above, they don't have any other form but themselves. Before, we have lexical categories, which are the content words. Next, we have the functional categories, which are the function. The first are the determiners. This category has the semantic property of determining a specific semantic property of the noun expression. So they describe the semantic property of the noun expression following them. So for example, the blank, the car, the cat, the dried mango. Examples of this are the article the, demonstrative determiners like this, that, these, and those. Another one are quantifiers. These have the semantic property of denoting expressions of quantity. So this includes some, all, no, any, each, every, both, everyone, anybody. When we were in elementary or high school, we call quantifiers as indefinite pronouns. But according to the Bradford, they're not indefinite pronouns. They're quantifiers. Next are the pronouns. The pronouns have the semantic property of standing in place for something. So this includes personal pronouns like he or she, and they also include words that pertains to its antecedent. For example, in the sentence, Sina ate a dried mango, but she hated that one. The dried mango is the antecedent for the pronoun one. Auxiliary or the auxiliary verbs. These are functional words that have the semantic property of marking a grammatical property of a word, like tense, aspect, voice, or mood. This includes has, had, is, are, thus, may, will. Next, for the functional categories is we have conjunctions. Conjunctions have the semantic property of complementing the word before it. So, Sina ate a dried mango. She didn't like that one. That, in this case, is a complementer or a conjunction. Complements the word before it. In this case, like. She didn't like that one. So, this includes that, if, for, and, but. So that's it for the traditional grammar. Now we delve in deeper to the universal grammar. First of all, we have to know this person. This is Noam Chomsky. He is an American linguist and was the proponent of the universal grammar theory in the 1960s. So what is universal grammar? If in the traditional grammar, they use a sort of like taxonomical approach in dissecting the syntax. In the universal grammar, they use a cognitive approach to study grammar. So, he believes that the goal of a linguist is to determine what it is that native speakers know about their language and which enables them to speak and understand the language. Chomsky presents this challenge that for linguists, we have to know not just about the language, but about how the native speakers treat their language. What do they think about? Why do they think that? How do they use their grammars and all that, which in turn will make us more fully understand the language. Chomsky also stated that there are a distinction between competence and performance. According to his universal grammar theory, competence is the native speaker's knowledge of their language, what you think about, the rules you know, I know that Sina ate a dried mango is a complete sentence, blah 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 blah. While on the other hand, performance is what people actually say or what they understand when someone speaks. So it's what people say and then what you understand when they talk to you. So sometimes when people make mistakes when speaking or writing, it's not that they are incompetent or they are not competent in their language. It's just that a performance error. Performance error does not equate that you are unknowledgeable of your language. It's just that what you say didn't actually come out the right way that you thought of it. For universal grammar, it is the theory that there is a set of conscious, unconscious constraints that leads us to decide whether a sentence is correctly formed. When you hear the sentence, Sina ate a dried mango, you immediately thought of that's a correct sentence. But when you hear Sina ate mango, I mean, it's weird, but it's correct. That's what you'd think. Sina dried mango. And you'd think na, huh? Something like that. This mental grammar where we pause and think about and evaluate what we hear. The rules is not necessarily the same for all languages. What applies to English will not apply to Filipino language, but the process where we pause and think is universal. That's why this is universal grammar. The process where we perceive certain sentences, that's wrong, and some that are not. That's universal grammar. That's the universal grammar theory. For example, when I say, kumain ako dried mango, you'd say, huh, that's wrong, but you understood me. Right? The thinking of, wait, that's wrong, but I understood her. That is the universal grammar theory in works. If the traditional grammar tackles syntax in taxonomical way, which lists its parts, its properties, and all that, universal grammar, on the other hand, is a cognitive approach. It is the understanding that there is a relationship between how speakers speak their language and how they perform their language. Universal grammar also acknowledges that the mental grammar that we do, irregardless of the language, is universal. So that's it for the traditional and universal grammar topic. So thank you for listening.